I hope screen is visible to all of you. Yes, Jagriti, I'll come back to you. है ना? Just focus here. I'll come back to you after the lecture. Okay, so let's start economic survey, chapter number 13. Chapter number 13 of economic survey. This is what we are going to study. है ना? And the major thing is about rural development and social progress from participation to partnership. Okay. ये देश जो है ना वो लोगों के पार्टिसिपेशन से बनेगा. It's not like only with the participation of the government. So community development is very important, rural development is important, social progress is important. So from welfare delivery to capability creation. Okay, this is the theme of this chapter. Again, I'm repeating, from welfare delivery to capability creation. It means it's not the government's responsibility just to deliver the welfare schemes to the rural areas and the people, but creating the capability so that they can also progress. Now, when you see this chapter, when you read this full chapter from the economic survey, you realize that the survey talks about a very fundamental reminder that India's growth story, if India wants to grow, okay, if India wants to grow in the next decade or by 2047, India's growth cannot bypass rural India. Rural India should be hand in hand with the process of development with urban areas as well. So because the reason is simple, large share of population lives in rural areas. Okay. Rural income drives consumption in India. Okay. Rural distress quickly becomes political instability. Okay. So these are the three reasons which I feel that rural development and social progress is very, very vital. Because rural development is not a redistribution problem. It's a demand, productivity, and stability problem. Demand, productivity, and stability problem. These are the three things. Okay. So that is what economic survey chapter number 13 says about. Now, in the introduction, it is very clear that they define two-dimensional social mobility. One is inter, another is intra. Okay. So intra-generational mobility, it means changes across generation and changes within the person's lifetime. That is intra-generational mobility. And key determinants of social mobility include these three things. They should be healthy. Access to education must be there. So access, quality, equity, lifelong learning. They should not left behind from technology. Talking about work, opportunity, wages, working conditions, all are important. And protection and institutions. So both these are important. All these 5 points are the key determinants of social mobility. Very important. As I told you, because if India wants to take care of its growth, so rural development is not just the distribution problem, as I told you. It is a demand, okay, demand, productivity, and stability problem. Productivity and stability. Stability problem. Now, in order to do this, you need a big shift from just poverty alleviation program to social progress, as the name suggests, in this chapter. Now, lifting millions up, if you see the updated poverty benchmarks. So World Bank revised the international poverty line to USD $3 per day last year from 2.15. Based on their India's poverty rates were 5.3% for extreme poverty and lower middle income poverty 23.9%. And you know that we don't just see with the benchmarks of income or consumption, we see from the multidimensional factor. So World Bank's multidimensional poverty measure for India stood at 15.5%. Niti Aayog MPI show a sharp decline from 55 to 14%. Further an estimate, this poverty based on Tendulkar committee, which I personally feel is too low, but you can see 21.9 in this to 4.7 to 2.3. So again, you can say indicating broad-based improvement across states and rural urban areas. So the benchmark is too low in order to see the Tendulkar committee, but yes, the poverty declining is also visible. And you can see in nearby areas. So earlier, the focus of the governments were on poverty reduction, the basic consumption support that we can provide to the rural India, like survival oriented welfare was there. But now what we need is a current focus. Okay, so four things we need in a currently focused thing. Okay, one is capability enhancement, as I told you. So not just welfare, but we need to increase their capabilities. Then we have asset creation. In rural areas, you create assets. Very important. Then access to service. Access to service. So whatever government service, whatever services are there, which can modernize them, connect with the real world. Okay, that is important. So access to services. Dignity and inclusion. Dignity and inclusion. Very important. So India is moving from how many poor to how capable. Okay, you can write this line. India is moving from how many poor to how capable. Now, if you see state level innovation, now today's chapter is very much factual. Okay, so I'll not go slide by slide, but I'll give you insights and the points. Okay, because it is more or less talking about data and talking about schemes. You know, so here we can say Bihar's state जीविकोपार्जन योजना सतत जीविकोपार्जन योजना targets ultra poor women using graduation approach, providing asset transfers, capability enhancement. Okay, Muskan, CE was capability enhancement. In the previous slide, Muskan is asking what's the meaning of CE. It's capability enhancement. Mentoring, crisis support to ensure long-term self-reliance. Okay. Thank you, Mansi. Kerala's poverty eradication model uses community participation, local governance, and digital tracking to identify vulnerable households, deliver tailored support, including health insurance, pension, and microplans. Okay. National scaling of best practices. So, Union government launched this scheme, Samaveshi Ajivika Yojana under DAY and National Rural Livelihood Mission. Okay. So based on this, to promote self-sufficiency among rural women, because if you raise the standard of women, if you make women empower in the household, the whole standard of the household goes up. You must have seen lot of things depends on your mother as well in your household. If your mother is working professional, you see it is a different environment in the house. If your mother is a homemaker, a different outcome is there. So if you empower women in a household, especially in rural areas, this is how same way BJP won the election. BJP said, you are not giving us vote, don't wave. We will catch women. So they targeted two people, youth and women. and that's how they won the election. So the strategy, whether you like BJP or not, we are just discussing the strategy. Strategy is when you target, you see, Ladli Lakshmi Yojana, giving cash to the woman. So when you give cash to the woman कैसे पूछती है? आप अपने घर में पूछना, मम्मी किसको वोट डाला था, दादी किसको वोट डाला था? They will say जिनने पापा को ने बोला था उन्हीं को डाला था. But when you have your preference, whatever says or whatever has been said to you, you'll just go and press the button where you have taken the benefit and the benefit from the schemes. Okay. Now here you can say state-wise incidence of multidimensional poverty like this. So you can say 15, 16. Okay, 22, 23. ठीक है. Sometimes it happens, हर्षिता, है ना, ये तो होता ही है. I went to a lot of family weddings, वहां भी यही डिस्कशन चलता रहता है ना. वो तो they know my profession. Otherwise, in the unknown places, I refrain from these kind of discussion because there is like no point of discussing these things. General government social service expenditure. Okay. So here you can say social service expenditure grew at a CAGR of 12% during FY 22 to 26. So that is also increasing. If you see sector specific growth in health and education, both are increasing. So welfare architecture is there. Survey says that it's about DBT, if it's about Aadhaar based identification, Jan Dhan accounts, mobile based delivery. So that's how. So they continued with high DBT volumes with reduced leakage. That's the problem. I feel that one of the best thing happened, DBT, direct benefit transfer. So faster relief during shocks via direct transfer so that people feel secure. So efficient welfare system frees up a lot of fiscal space from leakages. And that free up the amount goes into capex or development spending. Okay. Now here you can say key achievement in the social protection. So population covered, here you can say from this to this. Okay. Rural population using improved drinking water, so almost 100% of that. And I hope you have rural connection in your family and your relatives. Now, tap water, you can tell me if it has increased, the tap water. Electrification, that's the biggest thing. I feel that I really want to thank this government in that case. The electrification, if you remember, if you ask your like siblings, elder siblings or your parents, 10-15 years back, there was a lot of issue of electricity. Every time summer is there, electricity gone. Okay. And then open defecation free. So even it's like for agriculture also, there is electricity, and for urban areas as well. Yes. So that's really achievement. If something is good, we should appreciate. क्योंकि कुछ चीजें ना जब हमसे छिन जाती है ना तब हमको पता चलता है. If somebody would take mobile from us, then we will know what's the value of the mobile phone and internet. So yes, ODF is also open defecation. I feel that Swachh Bharat mission is also. I remember when I went to China for the first time. In China, there are CCTV cameras. Even in China, people litter. When there are no cameras, people litter. But I think we need to start monitoring more and linking Aadhaar card with those things, Face ID with Aadhaar card, and must be some deposit already logged with the bank account so that they can directly deduct, like a FASTag. They can deduct the amount from our account if we do not follow rules. So Swachh Bharat mission, villages with ODF plus status. So again you can see These are the achievements in which I feel I can see on the ground as well. I don't need data from the government to see this. I can feel and I can experience. Okay. So this is like government expenditure priorities. You can see here. Right? So economic welfare gives us a lot of things. Right? Okay. So government expenditure priority, you can say social sector expenditure. Health is in green, education is in blue. Okay. Year by year, you can see expenditure percentage of GDP is growing, although growing gradually, but GDP is also growing. So the actual amount is growing. Okay. Now transforming the rural economy, key findings on rural economic conditions like NABARD. Okay. So broad-based strengthening of rural fundamentals, robust consumption, rising investment. These are the things we have already discussed. Okay, that's why I'm quickly run it through. Lower inflation already we discussed, better loan repayment, strong satisfaction with infrastructure supported by government welfare transfers and public investment. Rural consumption reached highest level in 17 quarters. So again, post-COVID, this is a nice sign. And rural agriculture, non-agriculture also showing firm growth. Dependency on Manrega declined over 53% from pandemic peak. So you can say here the COVID recovery is visible. Okay. Rural employment decreased from this to this, unemployment decreased. Okay. So here in that case, you can easily understand that yes, findings are good. Okay. Viksit Bharat guarantee for Rojgar and Ajivika Mission Grameen 2025 reforming Manrega. Okay, this we have seen in our current affairs classes as well, and multiple times. So features are important. Number one feature is increasing the days. And second is about, we can say status can pause work for states can pause work for 60 days during peak farming season. And a four priority water security, rural infrastructure, livelihoods, and disaster preparedness. Weak wage disbursement, administrative expenditure ceiling raised from 6 to 9%. And mandatory social audits. That's also very important. Plus, one thing which is not here is about the biometric registration and all. So making more accountability. Now, this is community participation approach, technology driven participation. Okay. So there are schemes here. You can say drone mapping schemes, training rural women for drone operations, digitalization of land records, very important, very important. AI powered farming alerts like telemedicine, digital labs, etc. So these things are making smart, villages also, not only on cities. Okay, because infrastructure in rural areas is very important. It's like right now the rural areas are driven by infrastructure. Previously, they were driven by subsidies. So rural roads, electricity, drinking water, sanitation, digital connectivity, all things. So that improved the road connectivity and also enabling market and raw material both. Digital connectivity, expanding the services as well. Like you see, rural content creators also, so people are having internet access. They know what's going on in the cities. Right? So infrastructure converts welfare into self-sustaining capability. That is what every committee said in India. But right now, government is implementing. Okay. Then village commons, common property resources. So cover approximately 15% of India's geographical area. Support livelihood of around 35 crore rural people. Generate USD 9 crore annual economic value. Degradation expanded by 2.2 lakh hectares annually. Need for official categorization. So GIS based registries, community based management, etc. Okay, so common property resources are important because whenever we hear the word common, we think that we don't have any responsibility. Okay. So livelihood enhancement, you can say So DAY NRLM, very popular scheme. So 90 lakh SHGs promoted. 10 crore households. Household in generally we consider as 5-member families household. 11 lakh crore bank credit accessed. 4.2 lakh individual enterprises under Startup Village Entrepreneurship Program. 4.92 crore Mahila Kisan covered. 9 plus lakh community resource person. So here you can see that livelihood enhancement has been done and it is visible when it comes to the numbers in the ground. Okay. So skilling for rural youth, Gramin Kaushal Yojana, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, DDU. The focus on sustainable agriculture, third party certification. Because to maintain the quality of it. So rural livelihood is not agriculture alone. If you see more than agriculture, beyond agriculture, because agriculture alone is insufficient. Agriculture alone is insufficient to raise the income. Like seasonal income is there in agriculture, climate vulnerability is there, low productivity is there. So agriculture is not sufficient enough. Now we need construction, services, small manufacturing, self-employment. So rural workers shifting to construction during infrastructure expansion. So if I'm building roads in rural areas, it will generate employment. So rural development is non-farm employment plus skill diffusion. It's not agriculture alone. Okay. They are not with the same objective, beta. They're not with the same objective. The objective is slightly different in everything. Okay. Now capacity building, as I told you multiple times, है ना? Capacity building, RGSA schemes, E-Gram Swaraj, है ना? Sabhasar AI tool, Panchayat Advanced Index, है ना? Which one, Aditi, you are asking? ये दीनदयाल उपाध्याय. Dindayal Upadhyay Central. See, there are two kinds of scheme. Dindayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana. Dindayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana. Now, this is the scheme which is centrally sponsored scheme and central sector scheme. Two types of schemes are there. Okay. So, ye, as far as I remember, I'm not sure about this is centrally sponsored scheme or central sector scheme. Centrally sponsored schemes are funds given by center implemented by states. Central sector scheme means both will be done by states. So both will be done by center. ठीक है. तो मेरे हिसाब से ये CSS होनी चाहिए, सेंट्रल स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम, है ना. अब आप चेक करना पड़ेगा बेटा. रूरल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ग्राम सड़क योजना, 99.6% eligible habitation connected, 1.63 lakh roads, 6.25 lakh kilometer completed. So you can see that rural connectivity is also improving. है ना. प्रधानमंत्री आवास ग्रामीण, so again housing in rural areas. Jal Jeevan Mission coverage increased from 17% to 81%. You can see, and that is what I feel is on ground as well. Innovative plastic waste mixed road in Chhattisgarh. So circular economy model. It means we're just doing circular motion of what? Plastic waste as well. Tribal development, very important, because in tribal areas, forest is the most important thing. So targeting 75 particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Okay, PVTG. That is around almost 50 lakh individuals. Forest Rights Act. In simple sense, tribal areas, people are using the forest resources as their own resources, extracting and selling the products from forest. So there's always a debate who owns those forests. Okay. So smart tribal farming initiative, blending indigenous knowledge with technology, because those who know lot of things about forest, the generation is changing and that knowledge is not transferring. We have so many medicinal thing which can be useful for lot of vulnerable and harmful diseases, but that knowledge must be transferable. Because if you educate a tribal people, they are not becoming fully educated, and after getting the education they are not getting the jobs in the urban areas, plus they are not going in rural areas to go back to the forest and other areas to do the same work where other tribal groups are doing. So in that case, if you are educating, not fully educating, the person is of no use, not able to compete in urban and do not want to go back to the rural areas. And I hope you can understand. Recently, we have done research on this in the Amarkantak region of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Chhattisgarh border. You must have heard about that area. Okay, Van Dhan Vikas Kendras established for benefiting these many peoples. Participatory budgeting, need for strengthening own sources of revenue. Okay, so participation in rural initiatives are very, very important. Many states lack taxation rules for panchayats requiring policy attention. It means in the rural areas, they have the responsibility, but they don't have the sources to earn money. And that's why they are dependent on grants only. Okay, local bodies. Communication for development. SBCC campaigns. Okay. Fulera का पंचायती राज सीरीज ऑन डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म्स एंड ऑल. ठीक है. So that we have seen in the past. Meri Panchayat app, mobile governance tool for transparency. So communication, again, very important as I told you. E-Gram Swaraj Bhashini integration. So 22, scheduled language. So there is a constitution, schedule number 8. There are 22 languages. Okay. So nutrition, health, wash awareness in these many blocks. So FNHW intervention. Okay, very, very important these things, because these things will increase the awareness. Okay. Why these things are very important? Because if you see, there are so many government schemes always, but nobody knows what kind of government schemes are there for all of you. And so this is food, nutrition, health, and wash awareness. Now, village commons in India need a fresh approach. Village commons are shared community resources like grazing fields, ponds, water bodies. They cover approximately 15% of India's geographical area, which we have already seen. So that supports livelihood. It means providing food, fodder for farming, fuel wood, organic manure to these many rural people. So again, suddenly you cannot take decisions. Okay. Then it also provides ecosystem services, clean air, water purification, soil retention, flood control, and generate economic value. Okay, so 9 crore per year USD. Crucial for achieving multiple SDGs. So village commons in India, very important, where people can support livelihood. Now the problem is degradation and underestimation. So despite their value, village commons deteriorating due to encroachment, misuse, and neglect. So the degradation leads to falling agriculture yields, depleted water tables, shrinking forest, with most severe consequences felt by the people, those who are living there. Okay. And then migration and everything start kicks in. So the call for a fresh approach. What is a fresh approach? So it's a multi-pronged strategy based on Eleanor Ostrom's principle for managing common pool resources. You must have studied in environmental economics. Okay. So village commons should be officially recognized as distinct land use category with subcategory. So this would allow accurate estimation, monitoring, and informed policy makings. States like Karnataka, Rajasthan cited as an example of systematic mapping of common natural resources, lakes and all. है ना? Yes. Harnessing social capital for livelihood. Okay. So Deen Dayal Antyodaya National Rural Livelihood Mission, you can see it's a central thesis, sustainable livelihood. This mission is very old. It has been there in news since long. Key pillars of DAY NRLM strategy. First one, social mobilization and institution building. How self-help grows. Best. Harnessing community resources. The CRP model, community resource person. इसमें क्या होता है? So they volunteer their time to mentor new self-help groups. Peer-to-peer training. If I know something, I will teach others, and vice versa. Okay. Financial inclusion. So when you have formal structure, you have access to formal credit. And livelihood again supports a livelihood interventions, including individual community enterprises, support women farmers. Because in India, we have seen feminization of agriculture. Feminization of agriculture means where male member leave rural areas to urban areas for work, and the female are left over in the agriculture sector in the rural area. Okay, complementary skilling initiatives. So here you can say the document also mentioned two key skilling programs. Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana. So placement linked skill training for vulnerable families operating in PPP model, strong focus, post-placement tracking and career progression. So it's not just training, placement also. Then rural self-employment training institutes. Okay. So short-term skill training to rural youth for encouraging entrepreneurship and network of 629 institutes to across the country. So here are certain data given in the economic survey. You can see, you can check that out. Okay, 1.49 lakh bank Sakhi women delivering financial services. Very important. This is very important because people don't prefer banks, and banks also do not prefer to open in rural areas because of less crowd. So if more awareness will be there, it is easy. Okay. Now capability building for better governance. So NIRDPR, National Institute for Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. ठीक है? So this provides training, research, consultancy for rural developments. This is at a state level, and this is extension training centers. So impart training to village and the block level development functionaries. Okay. This bank Sakhi, yes, is a distribution model because banking services at the doorstep. Digital governance initiatives. E-Panchayat Mission Mode Project. And again, you can say service delivery important. E-Gram Swaraj Portal, single window platform. Single window, because you must have seen the government, when you work with the government, they say you go to that department. Then that department will go say you go to that third department. So that is why the word single window is important. It means in the one office, all profile, finance, asset, everything will be done. Okay. And these three are related to payments, online audits, and AI tools for automatically generate Gram Sabha meetings. So minutes will be there. So here you can say that they are using AI tools for making minutes of the meeting. You can see here. PAI, Panchayat Advancement Index. So composite multi-domain index to measure progress of 2.5 lakh gram panchayats. Built a 435 unique local indicators. Okay. Local SDG themes as well. Helps identify developmental gaps and guidance evidence-based planning, and promotes healthy competition among panchayats so that they always be motivated to do well. ठीक है. Rural infrastructure. Pradhan Gram Sadak Yojana. We have already discussed. Let's go in detail. So all-weather road connectivity are important. Okay. In hilly areas, like recently, you must have seen this year, the Srinagar highway is also not closed. Okay, so we have all-weather connectivity. Although snowfall was less, that's one of the reason as well, but because of infrastructure, we have that facility. So some numbers are there, not that important. Gram Sadak Yojana, part 2. What's the objective? Consolidate existing rural road networks to improve efficiency. And these are the progress. So you can see Economic Survey took the data till 15th of January. Post that, it went to print. Then the third phase. So consolidate over 1.25 lakh kilometers of routes. Gramin agriculture market, higher secondary schools, hospitals. Again, you can see the progress. These are sanctioned, these is completed. Tribal area. PM Janam. प्रधानमंत्री जनजाति आदिवासी न्याय महाअभियान. 75 PVTGs across 18 states and 1 UT. Andaman Nicobar, you can see. So 28700 PVTGs habitation, approximately 50 lakh individual. Goal is 100% saturation of government schemes. Infrastructure also being built. This I have seen even in Andaman Nicobar as well. Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan. Okay, so you just have to remember in rural development in the Indian economy paper, rural development is there. So if you just mention these schemes, name of those schemes and coverage, tribal villages, their focus areas, these things will help you in your answer writing. Not very much important to see the details of each and every scheme. Just the aim, the outcome if it has, and the name. Forest Rights Act. Individual titles distributed, community titles distributed, total area covered, this many. And a purpose, reinforcing community stewardship over forest and resources. So again, forest rights are important for their livelihood. And they are protecting forest as well. So somewhat we can say win-win situation for both. Now we have innovative infrastructure approach. So plastic waste, mixed roads in Chhattisgarh. Bastar district, one of the prime Naxalite zone. Right now it is not, but yes. 5.5 kilometer road constructed under Gram Sadak Yojana with 1.2 kilometer laid using non-recyclable plastic waste blended with bitumen. So first of its all kind initiative in the region embodies SBM Gramin phase waste to wealth Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin converts sanitation linked plastic waste into productive rural infrastructure. Demonstrate scalable circular economy. It means the waste coming again back for use. And impactful in the remote tribal belt. Okay, so this I really like it. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, that is Gramin. You must have heard about urban areas, but this is Awas Yojana Gramin. So implemented since 2016, housing for all, 4.95 crore Pakka house with basic amenities for eligible households living in Kacha or dilapidated house in rural areas by 2029. Allocation, so these are the figures. These are sanctioned, these are completed. Legacy progress, 76.98 lakh houses pending from earlier scheme also completed. Overall, these many houses completed in rural areas in last 11 years. Okay. So this Awas Yojana is really beneficial because of the location. What used to happen previously before this government used to give houses. Suppose this is a main city and slums are there. Okay. Now slums are there because it is near to their workplace. But when government used to give them the houses, they used to give them houses far away from the city. So they never used to go there. But now in the Awas Yojana, in the urban areas as well, government made houses within the city. So that really helped. Okay. No, completed means given, inhabited. People are living. Jal Jeevan Mission, water infrastructure, implementation since August 2019 in partnership with states. Har Ghar Jal, tap water connectivity. So again, this is important for rural areas. Current coverage, 15 crore households. So you can say 81% approximately. 15 crore household into 5, it means almost 75%. 75 crore people, not percent. Social and health outcome. So SEBI research finding. Sharp decline in women fetching water from outside homes. Increased participation of women in agriculture and allied activities. WHO estimate is also daily saving time over 5.5 crore hours of women saved. Very important. Primarily for income generation, you can utilize that time, employment, household work, and even you can take rest. So reduce disease burden from unsafe water also. Broader impact of rural infrastructure. So this is broader impact. If you build, you will have economic benefits, social benefit, health outcome, women empowerment, environmental sustainability. All these things we had already discussed. Okay. And obviously, the migration will also smooth. People will not move. So rural urban mobility improve, construction and services. So that enables safe, informed, reversible migration also. Because if you see, access is a milestone, but quality is the next frontier. Right now, access is important. The water should come near the house. We don't realize. Have you ever lived for even for a day when there is no tap water? Have you ever experienced without tap water? We don't realize that we live in our urban areas. We don't realize that. But when you go to a remote place where there is no tap water, it's difficult. Even using for washing clothes, utensils, washing hands, just to eat, it's also challenging. And without tap water, it takes so much of water as well. So when you go to remote areas, you will find this. So broader impact of rural infrastructure. This is rural well-being. So well-being means health infrastructure and child nutrition. Previously, the main aim was to provide food to the rural areas. But right now, the challenge is about nutrition. Underweight children are there. So huge amount of gap, especially in nutrition indicators. So these things looks easy on eyes, but when you experience, you will realize. So vanilla is saying still there is no water. So how do you manage? I think you are from Andhra. Uh, Strategic intervention. Strategic intervention is social and behavioral change communication. So this can improve outcomes for pregnant and lactating mothers and children by promoting appropriate diets and child feeding practices. है ना? So evidence shows SBCC through SHGs. Telemedicine portal. This is again a very important outcome because doctors don't want to go in rural areas. But with the telemedicine, it is easy for doctors to communicate and provide. Frontline workers is strengthening. So there are frontline workers, home visits are there, training materials, communication guidelines, all are there. Participatory budgeting and planning. Core principle is when you do any rural activity, you involve them. Don't make policy from the top. It's not Delhi that can do everything. Delhi in the sense on the top. You have to involve them. Then financial challenges. Finance Commission is there, but often struggle to meet expectation due to insufficient grants. So when insufficient grants are there, resources are also lacking. Okay. Own source of revenue. Ministry of Panchayati Raj is actively working with the states to improve own source revenue generation, so that they should not be dependent on the grants and all. So supporting initiative, a digital tool developed to help panchayat generate and collect taxes. District mineral fund is also there for mining royalties, etc. And GST collection also shared with panchayats. So it is again very important for the government to give the funds in the trickle down manner. Now, key areas of intervention: entrepreneur support, government is giving, financial inclusion, and scholarship. So all are there so that they can move out. If they get all kind of support. Okay. So gender and social inclusion is there. Social inclusion is fastest when we see women are economic agents, not just the beneficiaries. And if you see governance institutions, local leadership must be strengthened. So it will increase the administrative quality and panchayat's capacity. Because local government can only transform a scheme into outcomes. You can write this line. Rural development succeed when where local governance, rural development succeeds where local governance converts schemes into outcomes. Schemes into outcomes. Okay, so for senior citizen also, and there's a scheme elderly, widows, and person with disability below poverty line. Social protection is also there. Now, rehabilitation and welfare of specific groups. So transgender especially important. And we have to do something for transgenders. That is also very, very, very important. Drug demand reduction, National Action for Drug and Support Network for de-addiction centers, rehabilitation center. You must have seen. If you want to come out of addiction, you can call on this number. You must have seen these initiatives. Protection from atrocities. Okay. So incentives for intercaste marriages, etc. So that the scheme prevent the atrocities. What's the outlook? Outlook is simple. Policy impact of vulnerable groups. Decline in consumption, inequality, and here you can say average monthly per capita expenditure. That is also highest growth we have seen in both rural and urban areas. Okay, we'll write one paragraph. That's the end of this chapter. We'll write one paragraph. Ready, everyone? The economic survey argues that The economic survey argues that rural development in India has evolved. Rural development in India has evolved. Rural development in India has evolved from a narrow focus on poverty alleviation, from a narrow focus on poverty alleviation towards broader social progress, towards broader social progress. Centered on capability creation, centered on capability creation, centered on capability creation. Put a full stop. Put a full stop. You write improve welfare delivery through technology. Improved welfare delivery through technology, comma, expansion of rural infrastructure. Improved welfare delivery through technology, comma, expansion of rural infrastructure and diversification of livelihoods, and diversification of livelihoods. Okay, diversification of livelihoods have strengthened resilience and inclusion. Resilience and inclusion. Resilience and inclusion. Change the paragraph. Change the paragraph. However, sustaining rural progress requires enhancing service quality, comma, enabling non-farm employment, comma, enabling non-farm employment, comma, supporting safe migration, and strengthen local governance, institutions. You write local governance institutions to translate welfare access into durable economic and social outcomes. Full stop. That's it. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the chapter.